So before I get started with the Q&A part of the video, which is going to be the majority of it, I just wanted to give a brief update on production and where Bleating Heart stands right now for anybody who hasn't been following my Ko-fi and hasn't been updated with what's going on. I'm just chipping away at rough animation. My goal is to get to 75% of the rough animation done before we roll into cleanup, and at that time I'll reach out to my friend Sydney Gale, who's a very talented cleanup artist working for Spindle Horse Animation, and we'll get together and go over, the production schedule for that. It'll be a little bit more structured of a schedule, and we could potentially bring other people on board to help. As of right now, though, I'm just working kind of by myself doing that rough animation, so I'm taking it day by day, just a little bit at a time, and kind of trying to treat it as the passion project that it is, and doing things at my own pace. So I'm making a lot of really good progress that I'm really happy with and proud of, and I can't wait to share it. So if you're interested in seeing some of that work in progress rough animation, stick around till the end, and I'll show some of it to you. So without further ado, we'll get into our questions for the day. Our first question comes from A Jergy, who asked, "What's your favorite part of the animation process?" And my favorite part of the animation process is rough animation, which is what I'm doing right now. Maybe it's because I'm doing it right now, but I find that to be the most rewarding for me, because it's the first time in the whole process of creating this show that I get to see the characters really come to life. They are reacting to things in their environment, they're interacting with other characters on the screen, and it's just that first spark of life that has come to the character, and I find that to be the most rewarding and exciting part of the animation process, so that's why it's my favorite. They also asked, not an extra question, but can you tell the Fox Priest I said hi? And yes, I did. He said he sends his regards. So the Fox Priest, who kind of just has a placeholder name right now, I'm not even sure I decided on a name for him. He is kind of a character I didn't think people would gravitate toward, but every once in a while I get comments about him, I'm not on TikTok anymore, but when I was, people always mention him in the comments, and I didn't expect him to be a fan favorite, and maybe he will be, maybe he won't be when he actually gets on screen, but he is an interesting character, and I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure now to make him even more interesting as the show goes on. So he's been a fun character to develop so far. But like I said, I can't even really tell you his name because I don't know what it's going to be yet. It'll be probably Father something, so you'll have to wait and see. A Little Cartoony asks, "What are you most proud of so far with this project?" And I think the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that it's still happening. And despite setbacks, despite 5 years passing and the production kind of stalling and starting and just being shuffled around in my life a little bit, it's still hanging on and still happening. Memegel01 asks, "Will there be some sort of collab with other works in the future?" And I think this is referring to other indie animated shows or indie creators and collaborations with them. Which I think would be super cool. There's nothing in the works at the moment, but I would be open to collaborating with another creator and doing maybe some kind of crossover with our shows. That would be really cool. I was part of a project earlier this year called the Indie Animation Zine, and I highly recommend checking it out. I think they're in the last few days of their kind of final call for orders that they're doing, so I'll leave a link below so that you can check them out and maybe buy the zine or buy some merch for yourself and support all of the indie creators that were a part of it. So the way it worked was that we all kind of traded our shows, and it was all randomized, but I got, oh hi Pogo, I got someone else's show and somebody else got mine, and we had to draw a page or a couple pages for the shows that we were assigned. So somebody else got Bleating Heart. That was Benny, also known as Salesman Radios. They are the creator of Desert's Edge, and they did the sweetest little comic of Marsha and Ten, and they called it Marsha's Day Out, and it's just so stinking cute. I love how it turned out, and I loved seeing all of the progress updates throughout the kind of production of the zine, and it was great collaborating with them. So I ended up doing the art for another show called Elementus, and this show has such a cool style. It reminds me a lot of Sonic and Rayman and Kingdom Hearts, kind of those, I want to say 2000s type video games, where the characters are like brightly colored, they got big chunky shoes, and it was just a lot of fun to draw the characters and get a glimpse of the show as well through like the work in progress that was being shared at the time. So I highly recommend checking out the zine. I'll leave links below and show, you know, a link or a picture here so that you can see what I'm talking about. But it was a lot of fun to collaborate. I'd be open to do something like that in the future too. So Macabre Top Hat asks, what's your current workflow like? Also, I need a full expose on Pogo. And you probably just heard Pogo talking there a minute ago. He's a chatty boy. So my workflow is very much based on vibes. I mentioned earlier that I'm just chipping away at rough animation without really having any set deadlines yet. I'm just trying to get to that 75% mark before we start treating this like an actual production. So I'm doing pretty well. I'm making really good progress recently, and I really just sit down at my computer and pick a scene that speaks to me in that moment. Like, it could be one that I had already started and maybe was halfway done with and just needs pushed over the finish line, or it's a scene that I haven't even touched yet, has not been started, and it's, you know, a funny one. I know it has a visual joke in it, so it excites me to work on that scene because I want to see how that punchline is going to go. But it's really just whatever I'm feeling at the time. There's no real strict deadlines yet, and I like it that way. I like treating it like a passion project and not really having those strict deadlines, and I get to kind of work at my own pace and choose what I want to work on when. And maybe as I get closer and closer to 75% completion for rough animation, I'll start assigning myself things like, okay, we're gonna get done with scene 3 by this Friday, that kind of thing. But it's really just, I'm lucky if I finish a scene in a day. Like, sometimes I'll sit down on my computer expecting to do like 2 drawings before bed or something, and then I end up finishing the whole scene, like maybe 1 whole second of animation, which is a lot, even though it doesn't sound like it. So it really is just based on vibes, and I go at my own pace and I try to have fun with it. I try to just do scenes that make me happy to work on them. I try not to put too much pressure on myself that way, and I think it works for me, at least at this moment in time. Wanna say hi to everybody? Yeah? What else? Anything else that people should know? Ooh, that's a good one. I agree. What's your favorite part about being my animation assistant? You're gonna have to speak up a little bit. I don't think the mic caught that. Oh, okay. I never thought of it that way. Pogo is my cat. He's 2 years old, and I adopted him on August 2nd from my local animal shelter. His name was Galapagos at the time, which I just shortened to Pogo because I like how it sounded with my previous cat's name, which was Scooter, so I thought Scooter and Pogo was really cute. Unfortunately, Scooter passed away in July at 19 years old, and I didn't last very long without having a cat. The house was just too lonely, so a couple weeks later I was looking into potentially fostering another cat, but I just fell in love with Pogo's picture on the Humane Society website. He just looked so goofy, like they caught him at a bad angle. He was like mid-sneeze. So as soon as I saw him, I knew that was my cat. I was like, I think I need this cat. And I couldn't stop thinking about him for days after. So within a week of seeing his picture, I adopted him and brought him home. So he's been a really great companion, and I can't wait to see how much more we continue to bond over the rest of his lifetime, because I'm sure he'll be with me till the very end, just like Scooter was. Our last question comes from Mel Seeley, who asked, what are you currently working on, and what are some of your current inspirations? So Bleating Heart is my top priority right now. It's the main project I'm working on, but I have a couple of side things that I dabble in, or if I need a break from Bleating Heart, I might work a little bit on those. One of them is a children's picture book that I'm working on, just like the early stages of writing the manuscript and drawing and sketching some character designs. And I also have my cowboy story that I post about pretty frequently, and those are kind of the big two right now. So as far as inspirations go, I tend to get most inspired, I think, when I'm listening to music, which is interesting. And some of my favorite, I guess, recent releases have been Florence and the Machine's new album, Everybody Scream, with the song Everybody Scream. I also really like the song Old Religion on that album. And there's something about the vibes and the tone of it that just, I associate it a lot with Bleeding Heart, and the themes in the show and kind of the more darker parts that come up in later episodes. So it's one of those things where I can listen to it, I kind of play my own little AMV in my head, and it just gets me really excited to work on the show and get to those points later in the series, because the first episode is one of those things that I'm like already kind of tired of, I'm bored of it, and I just want to move on to the juicier stuff that happens later. So, oh, thanks, Pogo. So as far as TV shows or movies that inspire me, obviously Venom is a big inspiration, and the podcast Malevolent has a similar storyline. They're both about like a regular guy who gets possessed by this otherworldly entity, and they have to, get along and solve a mystery together. So that's my jam, those kinds of storylines. And I've been getting a little bit more into horror lately and reading some horror books, very light horror, nothing even like Stephen King yet. I don't know if I'll ever reach that point, but I've been watching a couple more werewolf movies. I watched Werewolves Within, and I really liked it. It actually was very Bleeding Heartcore to me up until like 3/4 of the way, and then that last fourth of the movie was just, it went off the rails and it kind of fell apart. But it had a lot of the same themes. It had that werewolf mystery of like, who's the werewolf in the town? So I really loved the first 3/4 of that movie. If you're into werewolf movies, I think you might like it. So thank you all so much for your thoughtful questions, and thank you to those who are tuning in to hear me yap about my project. I'll show the work in progress animations in just a moment, but first I wanted to say that if you like what you see and you want to see it before anyone else, you can support me on Ko-fi with a one-time donation or by becoming a monthly supporter for additional perks. I also have stickers and pins in my Ko-fi shop, and every purchase helps fund the show. I recently dropped a hefty amount of money on a Toon Boom subscription, so any kind of support would be much appreciated. Without further ado, here's some in-progress animation from episode 1, so enjoy!